first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, thank you for joining us. We are live here every weekday, starting around 4 p.m., or excuse me, around 1 p.m., going to 4 p.m. There we go, right here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. So we do appreciate you joining in here with us. We cover a wide range of topics. Today, we're going to be talking about what's right there on your screen, the 34th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And there we go. I've got this image right here. George H.W. Bush, 34 years ago, signing that into law. And, you know, it changed so much for so many people. And we're going to be talking about that here today, plus, you know, where we need to go as well. And to do so, we're joined right now by Katie Warden, the director of the Northwest ADA Center. And Katie, thank you, for being on here today to talk about this. Obviously, actually, tomorrow is the 34th anniversary, July 26th, depending on when people are watching. But, you know, a huge monumental moment there for so many people with that signing. And, you know, maybe if you don't mind, just kind of walk us through that, why that was such a huge deal back then and what we've seen change here over the years.
Yeah, great question, Greg. Thank you. Happy to be here and talk about this law. And I think one of the most important things about the signing of the ADA is that it was the culmination of advocacy efforts from people with disabilities pushing for this law, as well as legislators who were people with disabilities themselves or who had family members who had disabilities that wrote the law and championed it. And then it was signed by President Bush, like you said. And for this time, disability discrimination, it was really widespread. You know, many children with disabilities weren't allowed to attend public schools. People with disabilities oftentimes weren't allowed to even apply for a job that they were qualified for. And then the way that we had built our communities, kind of unintentionally, but they were built in ways that excluded many people, that if you couldn't walk upstairs, you weren't able to get into the school or to the movie theater or whatever place it might be. And so we had a situation where people with disabilities were really isolated and not permitted to be part of society. And so the law came about as the result of many different people with disabilities kind of in positions of power in the legislature and people in the community advocating for protections and rights to be able to participate in society. And we've come a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about that too, just all of those roadblocks that maybe somebody who doesn't have one of those disabilities wouldn't even think about. But I mean, curbs, I mean, a sidewalk,
Right.
stairs, that's just one, just a couple of small examples. But yeah, so hugely important legislature in the history of the country and just for everybody along those lines. And, and I guess since then, so we've seen these come into place as far as their regulations,
Mhm.
different requirements when it comes to building codes. What are some of the other things that changed along those lines as far as the way society changed to adapt to that?
Well, so I think kind of starting with the building codes or the ADA standards is what we call them, the guides that we have that are really down to the centimeter, the inch on how to create an accessible space. And once we have more accessible spaces, we have more people with disabilities in jobs, at school, volunteering in the community, being able to kind of share their experiences and give back, kind of like we all want to do in society. And so then when we have more people with disabilities around, it also can change the culture. And the ADA also has, I guess, rights or regulations about our social norms or kind of the expectations we have. So, there are rules around how to make our communication more effective. And oftentimes we assume that everybody speaks and hears, and that's the way they communicate. But that's just not true for all people. And so the ADA gives us guidelines on how to ensure there are captions or make sure there's an interpreter if that's what's needed at an event. And then there are also rules about kind of just to be more flexible. that sometimes people with disabilities, we might need to do things, at a little different schedule. Maybe someone with diabetes like me, they might need a break during the day at work to test their blood sugar, eat something, take some insulin. And so they might start work a little bit earlier or end a little bit later to make up for that break. And the ADA has rules about how to be more flexible, how to change our kind of assumptions about what's normal so that more people can work or participate.
Yeah.
I hope that answered the question.
No, that definitely does. That definitely does. I mean, and I think that's also a sign too that, this is an evolving thing, that there's never going to be like, okay, we solved it. Here everything is fixed for every disability that there possibly can be. So I imagine, even now there's a lot of work that's going on along those lines, but probably in other areas as well. I don't know if you have any examples or just talking about some of that work that's ongoing.
Yeah, so one of the big pushes that we're seeing now, and I think we're going to keep seeing for the next couple of years, is about website accessibility and digital accessibility. We've got some newer guidance from the Department of Justice that's focused on how to make sure apps, websites are accessible to all people with disabilities. And people sometimes assume that all websites are built to be accessible already, but that just isn't true. Many websites, it's very challenging or impossible for some people with disabilities to navigate those websites because of the way they've been built. Like, a sidewalk without a curb cut. It's the same sort of problem, that they were designed with little barriers that keep people from being able to get to the information. Yeah.
Interesting. So it's like a new kind of digital divide in a way that's happening
Mhm.
when it comes to that. So
Yeah.
for people out there too who want to be supportive but maybe don't realize some different things that they can do or ways that they
Mhm.
can be supportive, what would be some advice for everyone out there to make sure that they're helping out people who need to take advantage of these kinds of things?
Well, I think one thing, I guess, as the director of an ADA center, I really believe in education. So learn about this law. Even if you're not a person with a disability, you might become one, and you probably already love someone who does have a disability or work with someone who does. And so learn about kind of the rights that we have, the responsibilities we have to make sure people can ask for accommodations. Or if you're going to host an event, go out and check to make sure that there's accessible parking at the location you picked. Um, Schedule interpreters, learn about how to schedule interpreters ahead of time so you can do it if someone asks for one, if you're hosting an event or you're a doctor in private practice, you can prepare to make your services or spaces more accessible and inclusive. And I guess we're kind of here to help people do that. That if you're not sure where to start, you can call us and we'll try and connect you to resources or share learning materials to kind of suit whatever situation someone's encountered.
Yeah, that's, I guess, just to expand on that a little bit more too, can you help everybody understand, what the Northwest ADA Center does and some of those things that you are available for everyone?
Yeah, so we're part of a national network of ADA centers that were created shortly after the passage of the ADA. And we were designed to help people understand this law. So kind of the government understood they're passing a law that's going to have lots of details and people might not be familiar with it. And so they created these centers to help explain and help educate people on it. And so we have a 1-800 number that people can call. It's free and confidential. We don't enforce the ADA. We're not the ADA police. We're just an information center. So we want to help anyone understand what the law might require or how the law might help them. And people call with all kinds of questions, kind of service animals, accommodations at work, how to make a parking lot more accessible, kind of all sorts
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot out there, and it would be very difficult, I think, for anyone to know every single kind of
Yeah.
regulation and what to be doing and how to accommodate. So that's great that you're there to help answer those questions too. Along the service animal side too, what have been some of the biggest changes on that end when it comes to service animals in the ADA?
So in the ADA, there haven't been a lot of changes, but recently we had changes for airlines, and that's the Air Carrier Access Act. They changed their definition a little bit to align more with the ADA's definition. And so the definition of a service animal is a dog that's been trained to do something that would help you with your disability. That's pretty broad, but it has to be trained to help with your disability in a particular way. So,
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
yeah,
and again, something that's probably evolving as well and learning as we go. But
yeah.
34 years of having it, that's pretty good. So to see where we're at and see where we're heading with it. Anything else that you think is important just for people to know in general about ADA and about anything associated with it?
So I think it's really important to know that it protects a lot of people who don't realize that they're people with disabilities. The way it defines disability is very broad. And so it includes people who have things like diabetes or cancer, people who have mental health conditions. And oftentimes people don't realize that they're considered people with disabilities who have rights under this law.
So it's important to know that and to understand, and they can call you if
Yeah.
they have questions, yeah, and to help with that. And so along those lines, for everybody out there, what is the best way to get hold of the Northwest ADA Center?
Yeah, so our hotline is 1-800-949-4232. And that number will actually take you to us or any other regional ADA center based on your zip code. So,
Nice. So easy to
yeah.
get a hold of and to track all of that down. And, Katie, thanks for joining us too, just to talk about that. And I think it's really interesting and important for people to know, what some of the changes are that could be coming in the future. Sounds like websites are definitely going to be one of them, and accessibility on the digital side. So really interesting stuff to see how all that's being accommodated. Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us here on Fox 12 Now.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
You bet. And for everybody who's watching live, thank you for being here as well. As I mentioned at the beginning, 4 p.m. Eastern, but 1 p.m. Pacific, we are live here every weekday. And we go throughout the afternoon covering a wide range of topics, sometimes talking about this, like we're talking about the ADA. Coming up at 1:30 p.m., we have Eric Gordson from Around the House Northwest, and we're going to be talking about summer pests. So switching gears there. If there's breaking news, we have that as well here on Fox 12 Now between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. outside of our other newscasts. This is the place to go, so you'll get a notification to join us. That could be on the Fox 12 Oregon app, could be on the website, could be on YouTube, any number of places. But thanks for being here. Feel free to share these episodes afterward, these segments, and let other people know about them. But we'll sign off for now. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.